Good day to you. From Colombo Empathic Learning Center, we like to bring to you important and relevant understanding about the child in the womb and the years from 0 to 30. The emphasis here is that you can keep an interest on the child in the womb from the time of the conception. It is important. In a busy world, when dad and mom are both working and mom may be pressed with work, still we have found that if you would keep your child in mind and address the child in the womb while at work also, there will be empathy and bonding, mom and the child in the womb. So the child's heart-brain, a complex of 40,000 neurons behind the heart, begins to respond early while the big brain is still developing. So you can develop empathy and feel towards your child every day as you go to work. So our advice is, if the mom bonds with the child intentionally, sing to the child good music, all this is now medically known, to improve the child's bonding and brain development, you can intentionally do that, though you are a busy working mom. So your child caring and child raising up begins while you are bearing the child in the womb. At the same time, it is now medically known that many chemicals can get into the child's brain and affect the brain development of the fetus, meaning the child in the womb. Now I must warn you right away that from the time father gives a cell, the sperm, and mother gives a cell, the ovum, and the two come together and meet together and get fertilized in the fallopian tube and gets planted there and comes down only after the cell has multiplied to become what we call the blastocyst with 64 cells. From day dot, that property belongs to God. So removing that cell by any means and removing the morning after pill and every form of abortion is murder, and law in Sri Lanka recognizes that new genome, that new person does not belong to you. So you must take care of your child. The chemicals that you may take will affect the child's fetus while in the womb. So now it is recommended that you don't take any unnecessary drugs, happenstance, while you are pregnant. Even more, what you need to know is every bit of alcohol by the pregnant mother will affect the child in the womb. So the British Pediatric Academy took long years to convince the Royal College of Obstetricians to put out a proper statement on this, and this is what they have done. They have said no amount of alcohol by the pregnant mother can be said to be safe for the child in the womb. Child's brain will be affected by every sip of alcohol that the mother takes. You need to take care of this. So please, pregnant mother, when you are pregnant, don't drink alcohol at all. Similarly, other chemicals, aerosols, agrochemicals and so on can get into the child's womb, and research has shown at the time of agrochemicals being much used in different states in the United States, the autism as well as other forms of early learning problems have increased during those times. When the mother conceived, the first 3 months came during that period when the agrochemicals are high in the air. Some reports even have said the Q-tex that mother uses and the solvents that are involved in it can cross the placenta and affect the child's brain. So now advice is, don't take any drug happenstance, haphazardly, unless it is prescribed. And in early months of child born, even a drug like paracetamol can have effects on the child's brain wiring. This is what you need to know. A substance called PGE2, prostaglandin E2, how it spreads around the fetal brain, decide which part of the fetal brain will be more developed than other parts. And the PGE2 concentration of the fetal brain, while the child is in the womb, of course, can be determined, affected, influenced by different factors, including the mother's digital life. Meaning, if you are into watching violent movies and long on violent or very pixel intense digital activity, there's a way that it affects the baby. You need to know that. So even your digital life should be somber and sound as far as the baby's brain is concerned. As I said before, any other chemical also can affect the baby's brain adversely. For you to know this, that when the baby is healthy, the baby will never kick and you will not wake up from your sleep. If you are sleeping and the baby kicks and you wake up, you need to know that means that the fetus, baby is in some distress, you need to go for a medical consultation. The baby in the womb is so connected to the mother, so you can develop bonding and attention given to the child from the mother's womb becomes a child's attention span. So what the mother does for the baby in the womb and what the mother does for the baby in the first 18 months of life, vis-a-vis bonding, speaking to the child, infant-directed speech and so on, increases the child's attention span. So mother, you have much to do with keeping the child's brain brilliant, developing the potential in early years. And first 5 years of a baby's life is the time she learns all vital habits. So whatever you teach the child in the first 5 years stays lifelong with the child for personal cleanliness, personal habits, study habits, social manners and all that. So you need to know, therefore, from the mother's womb, you can take care of the baby, and early months are very important. More bonding you give, the more attention child gets, and child begins to grasp, acknowledge, and attention span deepens, increases, all with your attention on the child. So when you say attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or attention deficit disorder, it means that what attention the child got, especially from the mother, was not enough for the child to develop the correct attention span. So our recommendation is to medical practitioners is that when a child is diagnosed with the symptoms of ADHD, such as inattention, hyperactivity and impulsivity, without putting the child on drugs at once, please send them for empathic therapy. So we have innovated empathic motor therapy, which Harvard calls Fit Kids. Do a Google search, and Harvard recommends that for ADHD, but it works very well for reversing effects of digital stimulation also. So my research area is that digital stimulation has adverse effects on learning, behavior, character, curriculum and career. So here are 5 laws very quickly. Before the age of 3, please don't give the digital screen at all. That's a recommendation for doctors by the American Pediatric Association. I repeat, don't give the digital screen before the age of 3. Do it minimally up to the age of 5. Less you give, the better it is. And all digital learning programs, e-marketing techniques are fake. The child best learns by touch, visual contacts, 3D view and so on. When a child is on a screen, you are putting the child on a 2D screen, and the child develops touching, seeing 3D. So you reduce the child's brain development capacity from 2 into the power 3, which is 3D, into 2 into the power 2, which is 4, and that is a 50% reduction of child's brain development. So please don't do this. Second law is that at feed time, never give the screen, because at feed time, child needs to become brain brilliant, and brain absorbs best during the feed time. And if you give the screen at feed time, that will mean the child will lifelong on the screen. Thirdly, don't give the screen after 6 p.m. After 6 p.m. melatonin secretes, and melatonin should do the brain thing that melatonin should do. And if you give the pixel light, the blue increased frequency of LED will reduce the child's sleep and distort the child's sleep pattern, and physiological sleep will not set in, though the child is physically sleeping, and the child will get up in the morning irritable and so on. So you can do much for the child's brain by simple occupational therapy with the child. It's not therapy, just the things that we did when we were young. You can do it with the child. You must also, a mother makes it safe for the child every day. She makes it safe and secure every day. But when the child breaks the limit, it's a father who must be available to establish the boundary and readjust. And for mistake management, father must get involved. For course correction, father must get involved. Then the father also must be able to give the child the next step and the next stretch. The challenge must come from father. Thrill training must come from the father. This is important so that the child learns that thrill is taught by father, and when peers approach them with not so good thrills, they have a training already that it is my father who gives me the, teaches me what is next. Establish that habit early. As I said, mother can't take any alcohol when she is pregnant, because that will affect the child's brain. There are other things that you can concentrate on. The child could be in a playpen, a restricted area, till about the age 8. This helps the child to move around in that space, to come to the limit of what is available. And you should give only a limited number of toys and never give electronic toys. Electronic toys work against speech. So if you give the child the digital screen before the age of 3, child will not absorb speech, child will not form language. So you should give the child tactile toys, not many. For 4 hours you can give about 4 or 5 toys. And the child must be able to do with those toys with concentration. Child must begin the initiation, navigation, in conclusion, successful reward pathway with toys. That's how you develop the attention span. That's how you develop the default mode network of the thought of the child. If you increase the toys, the child will go from one toy to the other and will learn inattention rather than attention. So you can change the toys after about 5 hours. So when the new toys come, the child will again start doing, will initiate, navigate, and the principle is initiate, navigate, successful in conclusion, and reward motive that I got it. So to build the building blocks and then to bring it down and laugh at it, all that is part of the process of making the child brain brilliant. So here is how the brain works. This in the middle, child must, I can show you from this. This is the default mode network of thought. By the age of 6, a child will have an attention span of about 20 minutes. By the age of 10, child will have an attention span of about 30 minutes. It's only at the age of about 12 or 13, child will have the attention span of 45 minutes, which is the adult attention span. Now the child can be made to develop the attention span by the kind of toys you give and increasing stretch of toy play. And a child, mother or someone playing with the child is important for the child's attention span. And more you give the screen is smart, screen will start, child will respond like a robot, so child will not develop any attention span by giving the screen. In fact, by giving the screen, you ruin the child's attention span. So what are these 2 curves? When you want to think and do, you work with dopamine for salience, and in an adult, dopamine curve will come down, and serotonin works for satiety. Salience is doing to the discrete end. Keep the focus, the salient point. Serotonin doesn't check back, can I improve? How could I do this better? The child begins to do all this. You can see that this is not only 2 curves involved in studying, this is also how our character develops. When the child is on the digital screen, dopamine increases endlessly. Child is not thinking, what did I do? How do I improve? Child is even not thinking, what shall I do in the next hour? The child is completely absorbed in the now of the digital thrill. So you create a generation of kids who don't think of the future or the next better step. They don't think of the consequences of what they did in the last hour. They are only dwelling in the thrill, the suspense, and the risk of the present hour. That explains the present generation. How did that come about? By the screen. How did the screen come about? Parents gave the children screen from their very young days. This would be child abuse and a sad thing to do for your own child. So get the child to develop an attention span and attention intensity and the attention depth. When the child is too much on the digital screen, child will not be able to do mathematical solutions, because mathematical solutions need planning and an intensity of planning in that given 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Child who is on the digital screen is into no planning, because the smart screen tells the child what to do and child is only reacting in his response. So the smart screen is smart, child is becoming increasingly stupid. This would not be a way to make child brain brilliant. Then we want to get into some other areas explaining how the brain tract develops. Now these are the two tracks of learning and behaving. So we have track number 1, our thinking, conceptualizing, executing comes from our prefrontal cortex here. It is called top-down regulation. That's how children should learn and do. And then there is another track which is our sudden response track or survival track. When we sense danger, hear danger, immediately it goes into action like the soldier in the foxhole. But this track is only for emergencies and it can function well for about 6 hours, and you must forget the trauma or forget the thrill and get back into normal life. But when a child is constantly on the digital screen, the child will not do top-down regulation. Child is doing bottom-up regulation, which means whatever thrill or stimulus that comes from outside, music, sound, color, kinesthesia, whatever that comes from outside is getting the child into bottom-up regulation, and the child will not be learning, child will not be planning, he will be only dwelling in the now and reacting in the now without any plan. So you need to know that too much on the digital screen will ruin the child's mathematical ability of planning, problem solving, and they have no solutions for life. They'll grow up to be adults who will be always in suspense mode. Someone else is responsible for their trouble. Someone else has to deliver them from their trouble. Problem is the job, problem is the boss. They don't solve problems for themselves. Where did this begin? It began in the digital screen. A few more things about children and child rearing and up to the age of 13. I need to explain this to you. Brain lays tracks up to the age of 14. So what your child gets from interaction up to the age of 14 is the brain potential that the child will have lifelong. At the age of 14, brain redacts or edits all brain tracks to 50%, and if child has only got so much of digital jargon and digital mess up, that's all that the child will have for the rest of the future. So please parent, be very careful how the child lays up brain tracks for the first 14 years. Now brain remains neuroplastic and brain can adapt to adversities. Even stroke people can adapt to adversities, and that can be stimulated with classical music and so on. But your brain potential cannot adapt. It will be what you made of it till the age of 14. That is what you will have to develop your studies, career, curriculum, your wealth level and all that. So watch over your child's first 14 years. So it is always good for the child to have training and to follow a trainer. So dad is the best trainer for household things. So always give them some household chores. Now Harvard has done a research and found that children who have done home chores do much better at graduate studies. So now we knew this in our age. When we were young, we always did some home chores. Now children are into self-existence, which is not doing them any good in their curricular activities. So when you want to develop the child's brain a little more smart, what you should do is there should be more grip, more friction, more involvement of small joints, both toes and hand and feet. So you can hang a cricket ball in a sock and get a bat and get him to play to aim. And when the sound clicks, top, 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 he improves aim and attention. And in that place, if you put a rough coir carpet, the kind of coconut coir rope woven stuff we have in Sri Lanka, it has little not used and it has friction. That's the best way, and child should be playing barefooted, and he moves on the barefooted mat, and that increases his brain grasping and the track formation. Proprioception is one of the best movements, one of the best stimuli the brain can have. And when children come with digital abuse, we use this methodology to reverse the digital stimulation and dopamine high condition in the child's brain by getting the proprioception tracks to work, which works on a neurotransmitter called glutamate. So that's a medical thing. But we have a gymnasium which is all grips and ropes, and at the end of this there will be a little clip on that gymnasium. How we do with grips and ropes for children, it's good for any child for brain development. It is especially needed for children to get them off the screen. So we do this for kids at all ages. Sometimes kids come at the age of 14 or 24, laptop addicts, they go to sleep with the laptop on their lap. Even for them, this work is called empathic motor therapy. We also do empathic learning therapy, the simple Montessori arts and crafts. We also do empathic music therapy, flute, string instruments, all contributing to stimulation, grip and vibration sense and friction. All these senses, all these stimuli overturns the reactive digital stimulation where dopamine tracks have got overstimulated. I also need to tell you, when a child is too much on the digital screen, dopamine keeps going up, and dopamine receptor changes from dopamine 1 to dopamine 2 receptor. Dopamine 2 is addictive receptor, dopamine 1 is physiological, so the digital screen makes a shift towards addiction. Child begins with the screen addiction, then gets on to substance abuse, simple things like ecstasy and dancing and so on, then more dangerous things like heroin and cocaine. In fact, the UCLA calls the digital addiction the kind of changes the pixel screen makes on the brain. UCLA calls it electronic cocaine, because the dopamine behavior, dopamine receptor response to increased digital screen is just like cocaine. That's why the addictive action comes in. So I like to read some. This is our book on mom, me and mistake management. This is one of the books. This is on parenting in a digital age. Parenting in a digital age, excellent book with some medical details, but any parent or teacher can grasp. This is on mom, dad and me and mistake management. This has a lot of stuff about the children and how to manage their issues. This is available on our website. You can get it down whichever country you are in. This is on right learning, recovering childhood. This has to do with how you're transforming the brain. You need to know that what you did wires up your tracks in a certain way. Now in the Harvard Garden model, there are 7 kinds of tracks. First one, empathic intuitive, how you think about yourself. Second one, empathic relational, how you think about others. So this graphic has that one on the top, the 7 brain tracks. Empathic intuitive, empathic relational. Third one is language, how you form language. I've already told you, if your child is too much on the screen before the age of 3, children will have language scrambling. So of people who come to see me at the empathic learning center clinic, 1/4 come because of their language getting scrambled, usually at the age of 6 or 7, because up to about 5 years, children just speak like parrots, hearing and reiterating, regurgitating, but their language has not formed. The fourth track is mathematical logical planning track, which gets completely scrambled with the digital screen, because the digital screen causes the child to lose the planned track, and the intensity of solving a mathematical problem is not there. The next three tracks are kinesthetic, acoustic and visual. We all need it. Only problem is that the pixel screen overwires the kinesthetic, acoustic and visual. So it's the entertainment track. When those tracks are overwired, that produces inattention, impulsivity and hyperactivity, which gets diagnosed as ADHD. But I plead to the medical communities, before you prescribe drugs for ADHD, please put them on, withdraw the screen, reduce the screen, advise how, and put them on empathic motor therapy, empathic learning therapy and empathic music therapy. Don't go for drugs immediately. A few more things about 0 to 14 years. The attention span you develop is the thing that will decide your IQ. If you can hold an attention span for 40 minutes, by the time you're 12 years old, you're already into being brain smart. Keep your attention span of 40 to 45 minutes. Do not multitask during that time. When you are study for 40 to 45 minutes straight. That is the default mode network of thought. Dopamine is working and dopamine comes down. Then in the next 10 to 15 minutes, you do a check back. Did I understand? Can I improve? You do connection, collation, summarizing. You get to your head what you studied in 45 minutes. You have at your fingertips with short notes and so on. More notes you make with handwriting, the more brain brilliant you become. God's gift to mankind is handwriting. Monkeys don't write, monkeys don't know languages. So don't give up your gift of speech and gift of handwriting, which is tied to memory. Then I have to mention something about sleep. By 6 p.m. melatonin begins to secrete. I am saying this because melatonin is related to your memory and your study. Whatever you do after 6 p.m., your brain will scramble more. Whatever you do digitally after 6 p.m. So remember the 5 laws. No digital screen before the age of 3. No digital screen when you are eating. No digital screen after 6 p.m. What I mean is not PowerPoint, not Word document, but more digital intense activity like cartoons and digital games. Please don't do after 6 p.m. You will scramble your learning and you will scramble your speech. Don't be on the screen with intensive activity for more than 25 minutes. Then your brain begins to scramble, the dopamine goes wrong, and don't do the screen every day, because whatever you do every day becomes a bad habit. So you have to keep your melatonin okay, meaning that's how you are created. You keep your don't disturb your melatonin secretion after 6 p.m. After 6 p.m. brain gets ready for the dream weaver program you have in your brain, and you have your dream sleep, proper dreams, four dream sleep, no dream sleep, NREM sleep, REM sleep, rotating, and you wake up in the morning very cheery, very bright, fresh. Because all what had to be done in the brain, removal of neurochemical transmitters, glymphatic system working to make your brain fresh for the next day, storing memory from working memory to long-lasting memory, all that happens during sleep. Please don't disturb sleep with keeping up in the night on the screen or with other chemicals. You must have as much as possible, this is inviolate normal sleep as it is designed in your brain without chemical interruption. No chemical, no drug, diazepam or anything can give you normal sleep. More you become sleep deprived and more you take tablets for sleep, the less you have the physiological sleep you need to have. So there are many techniques of getting good sleep. Today's subject is not that. Today's subject is how to preserve your child's brain ability from 0 to 14 and even in the mother's womb. According to the tracks you have developed in the brain, child will want to do a vocation. So that is for another day. but you need to develop the child's brain tracks in a way he can be future brilliant without disruption to his brain tracks. In the mistake management process, dad has to take center stage, and it can't be retributive justice, that he punish the fellow, that he will remember the error and not do it again. No. If you punish the fellow, he remembers the error and he'll do it, or dodge your attention and he'll somehow do it. But if you give him redemptive justice, that is teach him how he may avoid it, sit by him, share his pain, that is redemption. You are sharing his worry, sharing his pain, that you have to get involved in this. And keep your 7 p.m. as close to the family as possible. When you return home, say next 2 hours belongs to my family. And make 7 p.m. a happy hour, that you will read some good stuff with them. And when they are very young, be available to them at the bedside. Bedside is the time the child begins to download things that went wrong. When you are by the child's bedside, when the child is falling asleep, at the most vulnerable time, you have bonded with the child. Not only that, bad memories, painful memories, child takes into the amygdala. So that stress track, thrill track, bad memory track works through amygdala, hippocampus, and hypothalamus. That is bottom-up regulation. Get the bad stuff out of the child before child falls asleep. So let not the sun go down on your anger or bad experiment. Take it out of the child. Give the child some catharsis. Be at the child's bedside. You might even pray for the child. Read to the child. So the child is put to sleep and all what should happen during sleep happens and wakes up well refreshed. Few more things let me see from our books what we need to share with you in this little talk, and you could share it with others. As I said, mistake management, dad has to get involved. Quickly solve the child's problem when it is a heated moment. Don't drag the heat with argument and so on. Don't drag the injury. Children make mistakes, and you don't do another mistake and try to manage the mistake. Okay? So make the sorrow as less as possible. Quickly deal with it and get him back to a good place where oxytocin is flowing as soon as possible. If not, the child will get into depressed mode, and with the digital screen also, when the dopamine is depleted, to get the same thrill, children indulge in self-harm. And endorphins are secreted when they do self-harm. That is how self-harm issue comes. It's a technical issue, but you must know that the digital screen pushes children to other addictions like gambling, hard drugs, pornography, even violence, and also to do self-harm. These are all issues with the digital screen. So I think we have spoken at length. 077 151 2801, the phone number that appears on the screen. You can get an appointment free of charge and come with your child. If the child is disturbed in one of these areas, we insist that the father must accompany the mother with the child. Thank you for listening. Pass this clip on to others.